Welcome to the Black Heart Red Spade podcast. This podcast features long-form conversations with accomplished guests from across the globe on topics ranging from financial markets and trading to psychology, entrepreneurship, and life in general, with your host, Adrian Alberts. Derivatives trading carries significant risk of capital losses and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All views aired by participants are their own and intended for informative and educational purposes only. Always consult with a registered financial or legal advisor before acting on any topics discussed. Today I have my friend and special guest returning to the show, Rocco Strydom, who is the head of and the founder of the SGM podcast. Man, it's been a year since we last spoke. How have you been?
That's the return. I'm looking forward to it. So much has happened, right? It feels like this year has been the sum total of 10 years. So I'm looking forward to diving into it.
Yeah, me too. I fully agree with you. And I think one of the reasons being is, before we even get started, how long have you been trading?
Now it's going to be. I can't even keep count anymore. But it's something like 4 or 5 years, might be 5.
Yeah. So this is
not that long.
Yeah. So this is about my 9th year. We're coming into my 9th year, and this is the first year we've seen a proper bear market. I
think there are people that's been in the game for a very long time that haven't seen one a proper bear market. So I mean, it's not just us. It's pretty much everyone.
Yeah, but you know what they always say about the whole thing about energy, positive versus negative energy and stuff. And I don't want to get too esoteric over here, but this is just very scientific. It's actually been shown that the pleasure you receive from a win is about half as intense as the pain you feel from a loss. So I think the same principle applies here with bear markets too, is that the despair from a bear market would actually hit the market a lot harder than what the euphoria would from a bull market. Because we are all walking bags of hormones. No offense to anyone else. Yes, you can laugh, but it's unfortunately true. We are walking bags of hormones. And we are so addicted to our own dopamine, it's actually scary. We are crazy addicted to it. And markets are no different. So yeah, go on.
Just just look at TikTok, man. I mean, if you want to know what dopamine is and what dopamine does, just go look at TikTok and everyone trying to go viral on TikTok. That is the sum total of our collective. It can't be, but I feel like it's sum total of our collective efforts as humanity at the moment is TikTok, which is sad, but there it is. It is what it is.
Totally is what it is, mate. But let me give you a scary statistic that was given to me the other day by a friend of mine who works in branding. How long do you think is the average attention span for millennials and Generation Z people?
Either 3 seconds or 5 seconds or 6 seconds.
It's 3 seconds.
2 to 3. I was right. No.
Like 2 to 3 seconds. I mean, bloody hell, even 10-second Tom from 51st Dates does better than that.
When I started to put out clips, it was 3 minutes. Then I scaled back to 1 minute. And then now it's like 10 seconds. And even that is too long. It's not getting picked up. And I'm like, you can't really put out a podcast with, sub 10 seconds with content and make it that there's a hook or like there's an incentive for someone to, you know what I mean? It's impossible.
Yeah, and by the way, to all the viewers wondering why I am not on cam, it's because laugh, Rocco, laugh. It's another freaking technical issue. The last time we did the podcast, we had a sound issue, and this time I blame it on my laptop. It's an old laptop. I'm using a different PC, and I don't have a webcam for this one. So apologies. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that you can't see my face when I have certain expressions.
A year from now, everything is going to be perfect. Third time's a charm. Check back a year from now, everything's going to be sorted.
Absolutely.
Listen, Back to the markets, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been very open and vocal about what I think was going to happen. I put everything on LinkedIn. It's there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
I did a podcast with Darren Lee, with Simon, a Christmas special where with Simon Ree as well. And we said basically this is going to be retracement. We don't know how big, but this is 10, 15, 20% retracement time. And it was, to me, one of the worst disguised, I was going to put it, moves ever. It was so clear. Everything was so obvious, not from a macro standpoint, from a technical. I'm talking about, someone wondering about, if I'm speaking technically, because that's how I see myself, and that's what I follow is technicals. Like it or not, don't really care. But from a technical aspect, everything was overbought. And everything was extended to the upside.
Yeah.
It was just time. And now that's basically come and gone. And now it's everything from US equities, European equities, commodities. Everything's basically pulled into either a wide sideways range or a narrow sideways range, which I do not like at all.
Yeah, I think the market's looking for value. That's what it's really trying to find at the moment, from what I can tell. Is that, I mean, as you rightfully said, we had this massive move towards the upside last year. I think we were up 26% on the S&P 500. I think on the Nasdaq it was plus 30 something. I can't remember the exact figure now. And now we had a contraction of roughly 26% to the low, but they're roughly at 3,600, and now we're about what? 15% up from the low, or it's roughly 15% up from
roughly there.
Yeah, it's roughly there. So I think the market's trying to find value, but the market is also so confused. It's literally like a beer in a tumble dryer at the moment. You know, it doesn't know whether it's up or down or sideways or whichever way it wants to go. And you look at the earnings. I mean, gosh, many of the companies were obliterated during earnings season. Intel, for example, which is a company I don't trade myself, but I follow because I want to get a good idea for how the processor market is. Look at how that one took a tumble after earnings came out. Look at your Metas, your Snaps, your other companies which are heavily used and followed by your millennials and Generation Z people. And we're millennials too, technically, I know, but you know, let's not go there. But the only ones that really showed some resilience, apart from your oil companies, was your big tech titans. But they have massive moats. So what do we expect? I mean, you know, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, they're not going to go belly up and to the wayside just because of one bad recession, for example, that they can stand the test of time.
Well, basically, they're propping up the market at the moment, right? So
totally.
The difficult where you said everyone's looking for value and the market doesn't know if it's up or down and sideways. So technically, the problem is that we have targets above. Yeah. And we have targets below. And that's the problem. It's like, it's a 50-50, right? So it's either it sounds stupid, but it's either we continue rallying upwards or the next leg down begins. And I see it as a protracted sort of bear market, because what bear markets, not that I've gone through one myself, but we can learn from history. We can go back and check what bear markets do. Is they are very good at convincing everyone that the bottom is in, everything is fine, we've pivoted, and then the next leg begins. You can go back and look, it's always been like that. And I don't see this time being different, because why? We always say, well, everyone always say, oh, you know, but this time is different. Is it? Is it really? Just go back and look. Like, I'm coming from from an outsider's perspective, and I'm asking myself that it seems like the louder someone or people begin to shout something, and then the opposite happens.
Yeah, but Rocco,
So
narratives sell better
yeah,
than facts, my friend. That's unfortunately
yes.
the reality, is that narratives do sell better. We see the same in politics. We see the same in bloody arguments between
Ooh.
friends and family members, for goodness sake. You know, it's exactly what you said, that whoever can shout the loudest and make the most convincing and compelling argument and sounds the smartest. That's often the thing, though, is that I've often found that many so-called smart people are not that damn smart, but people will listen to them because of their accreditations, their qualifications, or whatever it might be. So they could be speaking absolute drivel, but the masses will follow them because he or she is an expert.
Or the amount of Twitter followers they have.
Oh boy, that's a wonderful gauge of how good you actually are, right?
Let's not go into bash into it, but it is. So the big,
It's not even about bashing anyone, but because the thing is, though, I think Jordan Peterson said this really, really well, that in order to think, you have to risk being offensive, you know, and that's one of the things that I've really taken to heart, is that it's not about being deliberately insulting. There's a difference between being malicious and having thoughts in your head that might offend other people and expressing them. Because if we can't have civil discourse, and I place the emphasis on the civil part, you know, then what's the point? We are meant to have differing points of views about things.
Yes. So my problem with these big FinTwit accounts, right? Or anyone, it could be anyone for that matter, is that there is no recourse for being wrong.
No.
Right? So you follow these accounts, like I said, caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware, because you follow them and you follow their advice. But when they are wrong, there is no recourse. You, as the retail trader or retail investor, will bear the brunt of their misleading or whatever. I mean, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But it seems that their accounts, by sheer number of followers, just keep getting bigger and bigger. And I sometimes wonder if we do not need to take away the follower count. You know, the display or the follower account that's displayed in your profile, because many people, they sort of just accrue more followers based on the fact that they have this large base. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's 100% correct, my friend, because it's very similar to what we see in politics, and I'm not a politician, so I don't have much of an opinion or much regard for politicians to begin with, you know, regardless of where we go, because I think most of them are freaking idiots at best, and that shout the loudest. But it's no different in the world of markets and economics and sports and all that, is that we misconstrue the idea of expertise, or rather of qualifications and expertise for actual knowledge and actual skill. You know, there was a very interesting study done on this a few years ago, where people from all walks of life were linked up to an MRI machine, and they were asked to listen to people whom they consider to be experts while linked up. So, you know, whether economists, doctors, whatever it might be. And the interesting thing that actually happened was that the part of their brain that was responsible for cognitive, rational, and clear decision-making shut down, literally flatlined, to the point where they literally absorbed and accepted anything and everything that these so-called experts actually told them. So yeah, exactly. Geez, that's what I thought too. Yeah. So am I saying that anyone with expertise should just be disregarded and no, I don't want to listen to you? No, far from it. I'm saying use your own damn head and decide if something makes sense to you, instead of saying, well, he said it or she said it, you know, so therefore it must be true. That's a dumb way of going about life. Apply your mind. And if the markets, if markets is not a field where you shouldn't apply your mind, then I don't know what is, because
Mm.
Speak to guys like yourself. I mean, I've got other friends who are also very clued up about markets, and the one common denominator that I find across all of you, everyone, yourself included, is this: we might not all agree on everything, but at least we apply our damn minds and have an actual opinion that is not driven by popular narrative, but by actual rational thinking, as much as we can rationally think, for that matter.
I think it's not wrong to change your mind. We are all allowed to change our opinion and to change our mind. What is wrong, though, is to deny that we had those opinions in the first place. And that is something that I'm seeing a lot of these days, is people going back, deleting tweets, deleting posts.
Why?
Sort of shape, well, they're trying to shape a narrative of being right all the time.
Yeah, good luck
garner,
with that, Sparky.
No, well, I mean, with the amount of geopolitics that has entered in the last couple of months, it's not easy, and that is why you see people flip-flopping the whole time, because if you are playing that game of I want to be right the whole time, then you need to flip-flop, right? And let's take I mean, you're talking about politics. You must love what's going on in US politics at the moment.
Actually, I'm not a particularly huge fan of the current administration. Not that I was a huge fan of Trump, to give you an example. I mean, I liked some of his policies for the economy and stuff, but I'm not a fan of the man. You know, I always say that if you evaluate people, and you want to have an objective opinion, at least be honest enough to evaluate both their good and their bad qualities, not just based on how you feel. Appeal to my logic, not to my feelings, especially where markets and politics are concerned. So I wouldn't say I'm loving it, because it does concern me to see how weak the West has actually become relative to what it actually used to be in the past. Because a leader like Biden is not a strong guy. You know, I've spoken to a few people who know about leadership a lot more than I do, and you know, and world politics and stuff. And the one common thing that I found is that whenever I've said I'm of the opinion that had Trump still been in charge, we would less likely have seen a war in Ukraine, the consensus is in general that might have very well been the case, because leaders like Putin and Xi Jinping have sociopathic streaks to them. You know, they despise weakness and they trample on weakness. So they respond to strength a lot better. Now, I'm not saying be an egomaniac or megalomaniac, but you have to. But if you want to deal with bullies, you don't deal with them from a point of, please, sir, don't bully me, don't be nice. You don't do that. You have to come from a perspective of showing strength, because that's the only language that they understand and speak. Sorry, go on, Rocco. I don't want to take
No, it's we've got interesting, like, you know, if you look at charts a lot, then you see trends, right?
Yeah.
And there's a very clear one, and it's quite a scary one, because it started with a pandemic, right? Let's not go into that, and this episode might even not be published if we go into that.
Oh gosh, yeah, let's not.
Then that gave way. It's pandemic, then the recession, which, if I don't care how they try to spin it.
Oh, it's a recession.
No, it is. I mean, but we're changing words as we're going along, and we're changing the meaning and the definition of things. So I mean, it's okay. So, but that is for people that can think for themselves and can disseminate information.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And if you go and look at what comes after it, it's usually a war. And that is what is bothering me about this escalation between the US and China. It's almost as if there are these warmongers, right, that don't want to do this. You know what I mean? It's like they're chomping at the bit. They're looking for anything. And then I see like the news coming out saying, oh, the biggest threat to the West is China. And then it's all be something about.
You know what the biggest, sorry to interrupt you, my friend. You know what the biggest threat is to the West? Internal self-defense. That that is actually the biggest threat to the West. And the whole saying is, I don't know if you remember this saying, in order for any great civilization to be destroyed from the outside, it first needs to destroy itself from the inside. That is the biggest threat over here. Sorry,
so
go on.
No. So to me, it's, I hope, hopefully, I'm hopeful that, and I'm an eternal optimist, but also a realist, but I'm hopeful that we go out of this recession, right, into an era of, or a decade of prosperity, that tech drives us forward, that we find new innovation for things like healthcare and education and chemistry, bioagriculture, and, you know, basically just that is my hope. But it's seemingly there is a large contingent of people that want war, and if you push hard enough and you're pushing the right buttons, my friend, you're gonna get it. And then no one wants to go through a war, because believe you me, it's like, neither of us has experienced a war. But when I talk to my family members, back enough, and you hear those stories, then it's like, no, you do not want to go through that.
Horrific.
So we are, yes, it's horrific. We are at the crossroads, right? The world is at the crossroads. It's we either pull through this and go into a period of prosperity, or there's going to be a war that breaks out.
I hear you, my friend. And the thing is, I'm in your camp in that regard. I also don't want a war. But you know what is sad to see is the gradual decay of Western civilization. And I'm using Western civilization specifically over here because that's where our biggest economies are located. The US, the European bloc. I mean, China is now rising and stuff, but China is not it's not a democratic country, for one. It's highly communist, and it's a very suppressive power. So I don't like to bring them into the mix. But many of these ideals that the West stood for, like freedom of speech, you know, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of political views, freedom of just being who the hell you are and being who you want to be, are slowly but surely being repressed. For example, I saw this rather disturbing survey a few months ago where people at university campuses in the US were asked, you know, from both sides of the coin, you know, Republican or Democrat, would you be friends with someone who has different political views? The majority of more than 50% who were Republicans said yes, they would be friends with them. But the overwhelming majority of Democrats, I think something like 80%, said that they would not be friends with someone who has different political views. And that to me is scary, because in a democracy, you are meant to have different views, because how do we form a whole picture? It's like what my brother always said to me, have you ever seen a bird fly with one wing? I said, no. He said, well, exactly. You need to have both wings to be able to fly. So the whole left wing versus right wing thing, can't we have both views, you know, views on both sides of the spectrum? Neither side is good nor bad, depends on how we look at it.
Yes. But the important thing to realize is that, or to understand as well, is all those things that you just mentioned, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of speech, those are man-made constructs, right? And if Roe versus Wade showed anything, it's that anything can be overturned, everything is fair game, and then we should not assume that the status quo will be there forever.
No.
I mean, this is, and I think as long as we keep an open mind towards these things, that, yeah, these things have been there for hundreds of years, maybe, not even, but you don't have to go far back to find slavery, my friend.
No, you don't.
And people are mad and they're furious about someone creating an OnlyFans account. And then I'm like, man, slavery was much worse. This, what we have now, you're mad. What you get mad about now is nothing. Like literally, people were treated as objects to own. So the world has made forward progress. It just, yeah, with huge. It's like it's making higher highs. Yeah, we are retracing a bit, as is normal.
Rocco, I've told people this before to their own dismay, and I'm sure you could say the same about some of your ancestors. During the Anglo-Boer War, some of my ancestors were in concentration freaking camps. To give you a rough idea, as recently as 120 years ago, I had ancestors in concentration camps. But do you hear me going on about the pain and suffering that they must have endured? No, because I didn't even know them, for one. So, and second of all, I would be trampling on their memory and shitting on their dignity if I went and said that I can feel their pain and I understand. No, I don't. No, I don't. I haven't got a clue what they had to endure and to survive. You know?
Right. So to that point, Andrew Pancholi was on my podcast recently. I had a brilliant point when he said that once the older generation dies off and there's no one to sort of inform the younger generation what happened and what's the consequences of their actions, we lose sight of where we're going. That's why you'll find in every culture, the elders are so important because they are supposed to have the wisdom to say, oh yeah, but we've been through this, right? I've this funny story of when it was like a year and a half into the pandemic, and there was this Spanish friend of mine, and his mother is like, I don't know how old. She's very old. And she was like, lost her sight, a little bit of hearing. And she asked him, what is going on? What's happening in the world? And he sort of broke it down for her. And she just said to him, oh, it's like the Spanish flu. You know what I mean? It's like, she went like, oh, okay. So, and then he was like, what? It's like, yeah, and then you go back and you check what we went through. And I was like, this looks oddly and eerily familiar. You want to tell us, okay, we're going through this pandemic. There's something that happens, and then we have passports that because there wasn't any passports, right, in pre the Spanish flu. There was no passports, right? And then we came out. Every country needs a passport to travel. It's the same. It's history repeating itself. It's just that there's no one around to tell us, hey, man, we've been through this already.
You know, when I lived in London, I went to the Tower of London. Remarkable place to visit for anyone who hasn't been there yet, because that structure has been there since 1066, to give you a rough idea. I mean, that's older than the modern day United States, than South Africa, than many other countries in the world, younger countries in the world that have been founded. And the yeoman warden who took us on a tour said something really interesting that struck a chord with me. He said that you've got to remember that history is not the past. It is an account of the past, but it's not the past itself. But the beauty of history is that it's not there to be remembered. It's not there to be used for remembering dates or what people said or did and specific things. It's there as a reference of what to do and what not to do. Because this is what also bugs me a bit about, and we're getting a little bit philosophical over here but who gives a damn? Markets is philosophy. You know, when you trade, you're a philosopher. I'm sorry, but you actually are, because you're philosophizing what the markets will actually do. But the reality is that many people who came before us did what we would consider today really messed up things. But if I may, and actually, no, not if I may, screw that. I will give my perspective on this. Had we lived during those times, would we have been so different? had we been in those exact positions that they were in, whether it's in politics, whether it was in business or in military standing, if that was a sum total of the views that were present at that time and the knowledge and all those things, would you have been so enlightened and so different? No, you probably wouldn't have. And you probably wouldn't have had the ability to advance any ideas or make any changes if you were too different, because you would have been shot, or you would have actually been stoned or executed in public, for that matter.
Yes.
And that's the thing. There are a lot of things that we are doing today, including these activists who love to rant and rave about how evil people that is going to be seen as despicable and childish in 20 or 30 years from now. You watch me. There's a lot of stuff that people are doing now that is not going to be deemed so enlightening and so advanced, where our grandchildren will say, Jesus, grandma and grandpa, you guys were really backwards in the 2020s, weren't you? So be very careful about crapping on people who came before us, because they showed us how to be and how not to be. I stand by that.
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just, can you imagine someone opening up a time capsule in 20 to 30 years and finding everything that is in it at this present stage, and they'll go, what the hell were you guys even doing?
Yeah, but it's true. But the thing is, we also have to remember that most of us are actually doing the best we can with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my firm beliefs, is that yes, we get people who do what we consider to be evil things, and I hate even saying this because it goes against my personal feeling grain, but the scary bit about this, my friend, is that even people whom we consider to be evil don't consider themselves to be evil.
That's true.
Because you don't do things that you consider to be evil, even if the actions and the repercussions of them have an evil and harmful effect. Even serial killers don't consider themselves to be evil, crazy as that may sound. They think that they're doing, in their twisted, messed up way, think that they are somehow doing a favor to the people that they're killing. Even tyrants who have done awful things for some reason believe that their actions are meant to have a good outcome. But unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. It simply just doesn't.
Yeah, and I mean, it's that narrative that drives us forward, wrong or right. It is what it is.
Yeah, totally. But it's speaking of narratives, I mean, one of the reasons why narratives are so popular is because it's so easy to hypnotize people with narratives.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, if one of the so there are stock market. Let's talk about stock market narratives, right? I mean,
well, this all ties in anyway.
I'm so glad. No, but I'm so glad that this year we got to disprove the narrative that Bitcoin is digital gold, and it's and crypto is an inflation hedge, and all those things that it was this held belief with no empirical evidence whatsoever. And when everything went down, it went down with it and was like, oh, okay, this is what it really is. It was a nice change of pace for me, because I was waiting for that moment where, okay, the narrative gets tested, right? If it stands up, it stands up.
Yeah.
But it didn't, and that's just what narratives are. Narratives are stories.
They are
that get told, right? And you can't trade on stories. You can't invest on stories, because if you do, you only have yourself to blame, not anyone else.
Oh, totally. But that's why certain stories stand the test of time, and that's why certain things are more popular than other ones. I mean, if you look at, for instance, and the reason why I say all of this ties into markets is because when you look at what is price? Price is a culmination of all the information in the universe at that particular point. That is essentially what the price of a market is. And what is price often driven by? We can say fundamentals. I would actually argue the fundamentals don't make as much of a difference or have as much of an effect as what they did in the past. Because if we look at how things move based on stories like this Fed pivot, for example, or just the mention of Fed pivots, I mean, are you kidding me? What has changed? Nothing has changed.
Nothing.
We're still in a tightening cycle. We still have stubbornly high inflation. We have war. We have recession. I mean, good grief. A decade or so ago, the markets would have tumbled on that. Now all of a sudden, it's, oh yeah, the Fed will save us. Jay Powell will save us. It's like this messiah's complex that is currently present in markets. And I'm not saying don't invest your money, don't do anything. This is not a financial recommendation by any means. I'm just saying use your head. Decide if it makes sense to you, because I rode the wave up, as I said to you last week. Friday, I sold some of my stock into the earnings reports because I thought, hey, if the market is going to drive this up, whether or not I think it's going to continue moving doesn't matter. I'm using it as an opportunity to sell out and take some profits. But do I think it will just continue forever? No, I really don't.
But it doesn't really matter, because you stuck to your principles, and that is always bank cash, right? Always take profit, because good luck keeping positions open for seemingly a week now in this volatility and with absolute no volume to speak of. I mean, this morning was dead quiet.
Yeah.
There's just no conviction in the market. Pelosi might or might not be on an airplane.
I admire her for doing that, by the way. I actually admire her for having the guts to stick it to them. And you know, one of the reasons why I do that is it's not because I want war, but I think China could do with a bit of humble pie and actually realize that just because you're throwing your toys out the cot and having all this rhetoric and stuff doesn't mean that everyone has to listen to it. We don't all have to drink Kool-Aid. And Taiwan has as much of a right to exist. They really, really do. In fact, they don't do anyone any harm by existing on their own.
Yes.
It's actually quite beneficial, and it's conducive towards good competition and harmony. If people don't get along or don't have the same views, let them live in peace in other parts of the world. If they're not bothering you, leave them alone. You know, it's that's always been my perspective on this.
So, well, I mean, that's one side, but what is your feelings about? It's not her inside trading; it's her husband's trading on her.
Oh yeah,
because people say, "Oh, it's Pelosi's." It's not her; it's her husband. But she does have inside info, which they've curbed a bit now, I guess. But they pretty much had free reign for. I mean, going back to the Trump days, I guess this isn't just the Dems. This goes further than that. But feelings about that?
Well, I'm not a fan of it because once again, it boils down to the whole animal farm concept. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. So it's this whole one rule for you, but another rule for me. Rocco, if you and I were caught doing that, we would be in jail right now. We'd probably be lynched. We'd probably be lynched in public on FinTwit for that matter. But somehow they get away with it. So I'm not in favor of it. I'm not a fan of the way these politicians conduct themselves and the things they get away with. In fact, I find it damn well offensive. But what does my opinion matter in the great scheme of things? Next to nothing. Literally nothing. But it doesn't change the fact that what they are doing is bloody well wrong. And I think it's the hypocrisy behind it that actually offends me the most. It's like, we all know that the business world doesn't really have ethics. We all know that people do messed up things and stuff, but please don't go on a freaking podium in the House of Congress and say that you are there because you are these morally just, virtuous beings who are there to look out for our best. Well, screw you. You don't. You're there for one. You're not to serve the public. You're there to serve yourselves. That's how I feel about politicians.
Well, I mean, business and politics don't mix. Let me tell you that. There's just businessmen and politicians are two different breeds of people. And I've seen enough business people trying to go into politics and
Trump.
fail. Well, yeah, I can argue that this failure can be argued both ways, right? I'm more talking about people that never got there, right? It's like all right. So Vince McMahon's wife, estranged wife, they've spent 80, I can't remember her name now, but they've spent 80 or 90 million dollars, right, running for Senate, and she's never gotten in. Linda McMahon. So she's never got in, right? And that's because politics is a different animal, right? Those people are wired completely differently, and that's my point. It's like you choose. Either you're a politician and that's the game you play, or you're a businessman and that's the game you play. That's it.
Yeah,
that's my viewpoint.
I do agree with you. Unfortunately, when it comes to self-serving attitudes and stuff, you know, there is I mean, if you look at America's political system, there's a lot of lobbying that goes on. So unfortunately,
Yes.
in principle, I do agree with you that business and politics shouldn't mix, you know, ideally speaking. But I think in practice, they do overlap a lot, especially if you look at the lobbyists who are constantly trying to propagate their agendas, whether it's the pharmaceutical industry, the NRA, you know, big oil, big tech. I mean, look at how many lobbyists that they have, and they do it openly in the States. I suppose we should actually give them credit for doing it openly, as opposed to behind closed doors like they do in many other places. But yeah,
I mean, there's still no gun control to really speak of, and that's largely the NRA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it shows you there is influence. I was talking about like people standing to be elected themselves. I think there's a lot of gerrymandering like going on behind the scenes, but to say I'm going to leave as the head of, let's say, Costco, Walmart, whatever, and I'm gonna, Fortune 500. Look how many Fortune 500 CEOs or presidents have tried to run and on platforms, and they have failed. So that's my point. It's a stupid point, but it's still
it's not a stupid point at all. I mean, you look at a guy like Rex Tillerson, who was the Secretary of State under Trump. He lasted about a year, and I remember quote unquote him saying that he said, well, I'm not from Washington, and you got to remember, I'm not like these folks. You know, it's a totally different story altogether. He said he couldn't believe the amount of backstabbing and connivery and all that stuff. And he's in business. He ran a Fortune 500 company like freaking ExxonMobil, and he said he couldn't even hold a candle to the level of connivery that these guys get up to. So yeah.
Right. So now you have those people driving the narratives, driving the stories, driving, you know, the financial markets. I mean, that is essentially looking at the driving force. Like, okay, let's forget about America. Let's look at emerging markets. Europe doesn't know.
We're in. I love that response.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Still, everyone's trying to convince me about the all-share index, and I'm like, that's a lost cause.
No, it's a lost cause. Don't even play that.
Yes,
I never have.
But exactly. It's like the FTSE. I think I saw this morning the FTSE was like it's 0.3 or something percent for the year, and I'm like, that's nothing. What are we even doing? Like Europe doesn't know if it's coming or going. I mean, so okay. So then we move across China, and I mean the China.
I'm not Chinese stocks. I sure
no. No, there's no way. And I've been very vocal about it since last year, saying they like what they like, right? And if they move at a whim. They move what they like. They wake up and say, okay, 10 cent, we don't like this, XYZ, this is no heads up, no warning, stop tanks. And not for me. Thank you. Market likes surety, likes certainty, and there is none, because they go like this. Whatever is the flavor of the day,
Yep.
they're gone. And then everything from that point, the ASX is also too small, so we're back, and then we go across, and then we're back to the US. So the US still drives everything.
Well, come on, it's 60% of the global stock market value. You know, if you take the S&P, well, the NYSE and the Nasdaq combined, it's 60%. So the rest of the world combined is not even as big as the US in that regard. I mean, let's also be very realistic, and this is where we can get into structure versus strategy. Is that I think most people misconstrue the whole notion of what is structure and strategy, because they often think the one is the same as the other, but it's not. So, for example, your idea of strategy might be buy stock. Okay, well, that's that's actually, well, you'd be shocked. You'll be shocked.
No, it could be. But
how many?
It could be. Yeah.
You'll be shocked at how many people actually think that that's a strategy. I'll just buy stock. Okay, first of all, where are you buying it? What are you buying? What industry? You know, what price are you buying? Are you just buying indiscriminately? Are you time agnostic? Are you price agnostic? You know, or these kinds of things. But that's not a strategy. It's barely even a structure. I find that example in options. Options give you a better idea of a structure. So, for example, you know, I don't want to get too technical here, but let's say you put on a butterfly spread. So you sell you sell two calls, and you sell put in a call, or you sell two calls, or whatever, however you want to do it, and you buy one and you sell one higher up. So essentially, that is a structure for a trade. But what do you want to do with it? What is the objective that you want the trade to achieve? That is the strategy. Like, for example, I can use an even better one. Buy the dip is a strategy. Buy stock is not a strategy. You know, and it's amazing how people don't get that there's a fundamental difference between the two. And one of the reasons why, for example, you know, and I fully agree with you that we boil back to the US here again, is that there are so many strategies that you can deploy in the US. If you look at the stock universe, we have what, 6,000, I think 6,000 different shares in the US alone, if I recall correctly.
In the US alone, yes.
Yeah. So you have tech, you have a tech industry. One of the reasons why I think the FTSE has not advanced is because it has little to no tech exposure. If you look at the FTSE 100, it's mostly mining, it's old world stuff. The US has moved far beyond that in that regard. You have your Apples, you have your Amazons and all that stuff. There's a reason why these companies are the biggest in the world. And it's not because, and it's not purely because of the fact that they're in tech. They do more of the right things. They evolve, they adapt, they adopt. I
completely agree with you. I just want to make a point is that what you're saying now requires some insight and thought and comprehension, and I don't think that we are in an environment where that is encouraged or celebrated or even rewarded, welcomed, because it's like that 3-second like attention span. I mean, how many people are going to sit through all of that and saying, okay, but just tell me what to buy, just tell me what to buy, you know what I mean? It's just like, just tell me what to buy. Here's my money. I don't even care. Like, that's one of the reasons BlackRock has this big AUM. Is that people don't really care. It's just like throw it and take it, and I don't care. I don't even want to know as long as XYZ happens. And so yeah, you can deliberate between strategy and structure, but to me, it's a fundamental education issue, number one. And then secondly, it's like, how is it rewarded? Because last year and the year before was actually one of the worst things that could happen, because you could throw money at anything and the price just went up. Shorts got absolutely murdered where they wouldn't, or they shouldn't have, right? It was sort of that the market is training, to shorts are punished, shorts are punished, shorts are punished, until it's not anymore, right? So
Very
that's
Pavlov kind of mentality, reinforcement.
exactly was reinforced, right? Put on a short, punish, put on a short, punish, and so everyone was so frightened. It's like, oh, but okay, we've been through this and whatever, and then bam, right? So it's a lot of things, but education, and then how is that? How is your knowledge rewarded in that sense? Because there is the lead time that you have to go through.
Yeah.
It's not a week, it's not a month, it's not a year, it's years that you have to go, and people still want instant gratification, instant satisfaction, and I don't know. I don't know I also often ask myself, what is past just on the other end of this TikTok culture, right? Because it's boiling to a point where I think we are almost at fever pitch. You're talking about 3 seconds, my friend. It's so cool. What is after it? Are we just going to be plugged into a metaverse of sorts and be left to? No, I hope not, but I honestly, I don't know what's on the other side, and that's the thing about.
I don't think anyone really knows what's on the other side. No. And this is, and it's interesting you bring up that point, because I would actually like to elaborate on that too. It's the whole. Let's bring it back to trading, for example.
Yes.
You know how often I've been. Do you know how often I've been asked this question, or rather made the statement towards me? You must be good at predicting the future. You must be good at prediction. And I said, dude, my job is not prediction. It's preparation. I cannot predict the future any better than anyone else, because guess what? No one can predict the future. What we do, and I've used this example where I've said what we do, especially, well, at least the ones of us who make an effort to understand how markets work. And trust me, there's a lot more that I don't understand than what I do understand. A hell of a lot more. There's not even a comparison. So it's an approach that I use known as ligometry. So ligometry is quantifying what you know you don't know. So essentially I look at markets as like, what do I know and what don't I know? And the pile that I don't know is considerably larger than the pile that I do know. So I try to make sense of the world with what I know, but also keep in mind that the pile of what I don't know can easily throw curveballs that I could not have seen coming, because we all have blind spots. I don't care how smart you are, how wise you think you are, what your qualifications are. We all have blind spots. So you got to have a humble approach when it comes to markets, because the market, first of all, doesn't know that you exist. It doesn't care that you exist. And it has no qualms in destroying you and literally tilting you up, forwards and sideways, up and down, whatever, and having its way with you in ways that would make your head spin. And that is the game that you choose to play. This is people don't realize how harsh the game of markets actually is. It's like you said, they think, oh, throw money at BlackRock, throw money at these guys, or I'll speak to my financial advisor because he knows what's going on. Dude, and I use the word dude, I say, they don't know what's going on. No one really knows what's going on. We all trying to make the best sense of what we have. That's it. None of us can predict the future. We can just prepare for it.
It's all probabilities at the end of the day, right? It's all probabilities, and that's where the risk management, risk management now is so important. Stop losses, as well as take profits, because if you're not taking profits at the correct places, then and you're holding like the short squeeze, right? I mean, there was a lot of people that went short at sort of the bottom of the party. It's like, boys, you are too late to this party. This been going on for a while, and then they didn't close their positions, and there was a lot of accounts that blew up with this. It's not really even a big rally, but the point is that it's probabilities, right? And cash is also a position.
It's not a bad one.
Cash is a position, right? If there's no setup that you like, and there is no, and the conditions out there are not conducive to your trading style, then absolutely cash is a position. The worst thing that you can go and do is go looking for trades.
Yeah, but the thing is, Rocco, you're applying your mind here now. Do you know how lazy?
Yes.
Do you know how lazy most people are? I mean, like sincerely,
Yes,
is
I
that
know.
you've got to, and this is a compliment to you, by the way. You've got to realize that you are using what's known as second order thinking over here, not just first order thinking of black. And I don't want to sound like I'm crapping on anyone, but my asset manager knows what they're doing. I'll just throw money at them because I don't want to know. I don't want to care, because you're only applying first order thinking. How the heck can you expect to learn anything about anything if you only apply first order thinking? This looks good, I'll buy it. I'll sell it.
Did you see ARK's inflows?
I haven't checked the latest ones, but I saw that there was quite a bit a few weeks ago.
Yes. That's what you just described. It's that she is on TV a lot. The marketing hype is still there. They generate the buzz and they generate the AUM. And I'm not going to mention local. I don't feel the need to local to
no, neither do I. I don't care.
But my point is just that people hear things, or they get they on a whim or a rumor or whatever, and then they just throw money. It's like I said, well, patience and cash is a position, and if there's nothing that you like, then go and do something else. Start another business. Go and work on something else. What people don't realize is that there might be weeks where the setup isn't correct and your time, and you know what I mean? It's like,
oh yeah.
And then you don't want to be in a position where you are sort of forced, or the scarcity mindset that creeps in about, oh, I have to do this now. Yes.
You don't want to be pot committed. And that's a term that I learned from poker. You know, just to build on to what you say, is that pot commitment is one of the most dangerous positions that you can find yourselves in. So for those who don't know what it essentially means, I know you don't know what it means, but pot commitment is essentially where you've betted so big, especially in poker. So let's say you're on the 4th street or the turn card, and you bet so big that you might as well see out the rest of the hand. Even if you've got even if it's come to the point where you've got a crap hand, you might as well see it through and hope for a miracle on the 5th street or a river card.
Exactly. Hope is not a strategy.
No.
And that's what I said was a week ago, where this rally started building, and it says, like, if you've got a position here and you're still keeping it open and you're hoping this thing is going to turn back down, then you're gambling. Then, my friend, de facto, that becomes gambling, because the moment you lose conviction and the probabilities, I mean, trades don't always turn out, even if it's 75%, it happens, right? You need to, and if you can't take that decision for yourself, like, then needs to be taken out of your hands by a stop loss, or I mean,
and it's very hard to be objective. It's very
it's like
objective.
A long time ago I met someone who says, no, they don't use stop losses, they exit positions themselves. Well, good luck. I don't know where they're on now, but good luck.
I also know that some people don't use stop losses, and they say, I know exactly when to get myself out. I don't think everyone knows exactly when to get themselves out. When those hormones are riding high, and that cortisol is pulsating through your veins, where you can feel your heartbeat in your head, you know, you want to tell me that you'll be so objective when that actually happens. And then people say, yeah, well, you should never get to that point. Yeah, well, maybe you should shut up and focus on something else. You know, instead of saying,
it is what it is.
Yeah, totally. Because I mean, all of us can get into bad positions, my friend. All of us can be. I don't care how big you are or how long you've been doing it. No one doesn't make mistakes. Not one.
Everyone makes mistakes, but the key is that just to minimize your, not mistakes, but the effect of your mistake.
Yeah,
as always. And then those are the people that stick around. It's if you can minimize the cost of your mistake and maximize your wins, then you'll be fine.
You know what I also encourage is surrounding myself with people who do not disagree with me for the sake of disagreeing, but are not afraid to tell me when they think I'm wrong. That is what I look for. You know, people who are believable and have the confidence and the comfort to say, look, I hear where you're coming from, but I think you are so off the mark. It's scary, and not be afraid to actually say that to me, because that is a really important quality to have, especially because you don't want to be in a situation where everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid, but they're too afraid to actually tell you, look, you might actually be really wrong about this. Have you considered X, Y, and Z instead of just Z?
Yes. No, I completely agree with it, but it comes back to that confirmation bias that you said, because everyone has a bias, right? And even if someone can see something that you miss, but it's important that it's the right people. It's like you'll normally have one or two people. I mean, otherwise you're lending out your ears to everyone, and that backfires as well. Then you just lose all confidence. Look at those big stock pickers, right? And they sort of start getting the kiss of death. I call it the kiss of death. And it's just because I think they get so enamored with all the media attention and everyone sort of
I know exactly who you're talking about. CNBC, our favorite one.
Praising and all of a sudden they become sort of the best contra indicator out there. And I don't think it's that they are inherently bad.
No.
It can't be. You can't be in that position and your whole life get to that stage and be, it's the emotional side. Something happens, stuff happens, and then it affects you as a person. And so cutting yourself off of noise. I go onto Twitter as an outlet, not as to go and fight with people.
No.
And I think that's how social media should be used. But the moment and I've seen him getting viciously angry at tweets and engaging with these people, and
but that's egomania, my friend. But
I mean, like a guy that's stature with that platform should not, even like his PR team should not allow him to engage on that level.
Yeah, but it generates ratings. You see that's the other thing, unfortunately.
So what is it that you want, right? Is it media and attention and ratings, or is it like being right? So which one is it? Because that's if you want to play that game, then they're doing a brilliant job, because
but if I may, I think Voldemort over here, that's what we'll call him. He who shall not be named. He's an entertainer. That's how that's how I view him as. He's totally an entertainer, and it's fun to go against his views. And some of the time he's actually right. He's like a broken clock.
Yes.
He's right twice a day, every day. But I view him as an entertainer, because he's got such an erratic personality and stuff, and he's so easily wound up. So it's no wonder that they actually keep him around, because people love that stuff. They love seeing other people being angry and wound up. Imagine this for a second, that he's very calm and collected, doesn't get wound up. He'll lose followers, 6 love, because people, no, this guy's boring. He's not taking my bait. Why can't I get him riled up? So it's all entertainment value. And I agree with you in principle here that, if you're in that position and you are giving that kind of advice, that the last thing you need to be is an entertainer, because this is people's livelihoods we are talking about. This is not a game.
Yes.
It might be a game for you because, you have a multi-million-dollar salary every year. You had a successful fund and stuff, and you sold that. You're a deca millionaire.
Exactly. If it's a parody account, then I can understand it, but it's not a parody account.
No.
So
this is literally affecting people's livelihoods. So at least if you give advice, at least have skin in the game too, because skin in the game is what you were alluding to earlier, that if I give you advice and there's no downside to me, why the hell should you trust my opinion? You shouldn't.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's the market we live in. I'm afraid, my friend. You know, it's just we've got to make our own decisions at the end of the day.
We have to. At the end of the day, it's about taking ownership, right? And taking responsibility for yourself. It's when you place that order and you click that execution button, whatever, or you automate that trade, it's you. It's not anyone else, or it's based on anyone else. It's you, and that's that accountability that needs to be realized.
What's your personal approach to trading? I mean, how do you go about it?
I only follow a couple of strategies, right? Triple confirmation is my favorite. If I know the direction and the momentum and my trend lines are going in the same way, then I can trade anything that, barring commodities, which is very geopolitical driven. I think oil, well, the oil one was an easy one. Now it's the most crowded trade there is. You don't want to go near that now. And the other one is mean reversion, which is, for me, it's an easy one. So I have like 1 or 2 or 3, and I try and stick to those because I know I can nail those, and I know the time frames that I can nail them on, right? And it's like I'm not experimenting with anything else. People are like, yeah, but I mean, you can add this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, but I don't really need to.
Yeah, but why do you need to? Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's because you can tinker for a very long time, and you can, because everyone's seemingly always trying to look for the golden,
the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail. I'm missing. If I can have this one thing, if I can just like unlock. If someone could just like unlock this one thing for me, then I'll be, successful. And it's
really if not, only thinking really, that's what it's called. If only thinking.
Yes. But I mean, that's, and it's not. I mean, the truth is that nothing has fundamentally changed in terms of technical analysis for a very long time. Everything is bulk. You can get away with box standard stuff, but it's sort of understanding how everything works, what doesn't work, what works when and on what, and stuff like that. But yeah, I try to keep it like KISS, keep it simple, stupid. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing like over the top. Just try and keep it very simple.
Yeah, me too, mate. I also try to keep it as simple as possible because I'm too stupid to memorize all these other things. In any case, no, I say that quite openly. I don't have an overinflated sense of my own intelligence. In fact, I think intelligence is so bloody overrated. It's scary, actually. I know of some people whom we would consider dumb as rocks, but hell do they make money. And there are other people who are PhDs on PhDs on PhDs. So it's like a PhD cubed, and they can't even make 1 cent in the markets. So I definitely don't rate intelligence very highly. I think your ability to execute and execute well is your single most important thing, more than analysis, because you can be a very good analyst, but you can be a horrific trader, or you can be
that's completely. But sorry, no, you are 100% correct. But it was also about knowing yourself. If you know that your analysis is better than your execution, then it's better. You can take other trades. You understand what I mean?
Someone else to do it for you.
Or someone else to do it for you, or whatever the case might be. But it's about knowing yourself first.
Yeah, but that's a very Aristotelian approach that you're following. I mean, Aristotle, being in the Delphi temple there in Greece, it says, know thyself. And Aristotle was actually the one who quoted that. And I agree with it. Because one of the things that I learned from, or rather relearned from Our Between Dog and Wolf, that book that I recently read, is that Aristotle had a very realistic approach to life, though. And one of the things that the author also noticed is that the world has somehow drifted away from the Aristotelian approach to more a Plato to more a Platian or Platoan, or however the hell you would pronounce it, approach, which was a bit
Okay.
more idealistic, the higher virtues, go for the higher virtues and stuff. But yes, we are capable of exhibiting those higher virtues, but we often default to our realistic selves, because those higher virtues are normally only exhibited when things are going very well, and the realistic self comes out when times are troubled and strifeful. So that's why I like the Aristotelian way of looking at things, including markets. Is markets are not perfect, and as I said, they're even though the market is showing all known information in the universe, there are edges that we can exploit. So that's why I'm not a fan of the whole efficient market hypothesis, because you and I would not be able to make money from a market which was running according to an efficient market hypothesis, and that's why I think it's such nonsense. But a lot of the strategies that might work for certain people, or even things like Markowitz's portfolio theory, for example, Markowitz himself didn't even use it on his own money. That's that's actually the big joke, is that he didn't even use what he developed. So the point that I guess that I'm trying to make is find what works for you. Adopt what's useful, reject what's useless, add what is uniquely your own. I was speaking with a good mate of mine during one of our podcasts a few months ago, and he also said that he has seen quantitative AI models brought to him, for example, that guys have spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on, and he said they do not work as advertised. So
yeah, well, I mean, we've both seen. I'm at the point where if I see AI or machine learning, I'm yet to see it market tested. And back testing doesn't count for anything. It's and I've been shown a lot of stuff that, oh yeah, the back test, and I'm like, yeah, but that is on known data. I can skew anything I want to reflect on known data a very good percentile growth. A system is only as good as its and the real market, and those systems get absolutely crushed in the real market, and it has to run. I told someone the other day, it has to run for at least a year or two, maybe even 3.
You need a large sample size.
To prove itself, like, this algorithm is, if you want to automate everything.
And even then, as you alluded to earlier, it works on probabilities.
And you have black swan events and stuff where still needs human intervention. So there needs to be someone there with the emotional capacity to know what they're doing. I'm completely opposed to the automation of everything and just leaving it as is, because there are, to my simple way of thinking, nuances to these things that can't be coded, at least to my knowledge, or as I would like it. So if you're going to go and buy a stock or a system or something from someone that promises a return over a period that's completely automated, and ask them, how long has this system been running in the real market? And then you need to see those the track record for yourself, and there needs to be proof that it's not a back-tested system, because like I said, I can do one in 15 or 30 minutes now that looks brilliant, but it will probably fail going from this point in forwards, because that is the nature of the market. Market goes in cycles. I mean, you know this. Market goes in cycles, and it's like, okay, cool, but when do I take one system off and put it on another system? Is you won't know if you haven't been there and seen enough changes for yourself.
You haven't got enough data points to work with, and it's very easy to get caught up on certain data points. But that's why I stand firm by the idea too that you need to have a Bayesian view on life, and especially on markets. So for anyone who doesn't know what a Bayesian is, it's based on Bayes' theorem, where essentially you update your worldview as more information and new information comes to the fore. So you don't just remain stuck in the past by believing certain things. It's like, as kids, we believed that Santa Claus and the fairy and unicorns and the fairy godmother was real, but now as adults, we don't believe that anymore. So it's the same kind of principle here. Just because you once believed in fairies and unicorns doesn't mean you have to believe in them forever. And it's the same principle here, I would say.
Ray Dalio speaks about radical open-mindedness.
Yes,
that is, for me, it's one of the core principles that I try to, in everything that I do. If you, I'm radically open-minded. If you can convince me, then I'm willing to change my view. But I'm not, because it's not a reason, or like, and you know what I mean? It's like one of those things, one of those where people just go, well, you're right, I'm wrong. It's not a, like, that's not being radically open-minded. But yeah, that's sort of, you have to be, in these days, you have to be radically open-minded. You have to be able to disseminate and comprehend new information as it comes in, and not be so steadfast in your belief, because otherwise, if you're a market participant, you're just not going to survive.
Yeah, exactly. What's the point? And as was pointed out to me a while ago, is that what really drives market? Is it markets? Is it interest rates? Is it fundamentals? And I was like, I suppose they do count, but the crux of it is this: the demand for stocks or for gold or bonds or whatever on that particular day. It's the supply and demand. That is what it really boils down to. So whether you agree with the fundamentals or disagree, it makes zero difference to the outcome on that particular day. And I think that's where I used to get myself very caught up into it. Like, oh, this doesn't make sense. So it's like, yeah, who are you? And until I had to ask myself this very question, yeah, and who am I? Why does what I say have any consequence?
I get that. Yeah, I see that a lot. The fighting against the old trope is don't fight the Fed, right? That's but it's true. When they said we're going to go implement QE, everyone wanted to short. I'm like, why?
No.
They just basically told you what they're going to do. No, but da. And then we said, oh, we're going to go QT. And then everyone's like, no, what? Well, this market is going to continue up. Then let's go long now. And I'm like, these guys are, but they know that the Fed are throwing mixed signals. It's exactly that. It's a protracted sideways chop. It is what it is. I mean, but like I said, now.
What's your view on? Yeah, it's interesting. You brought that up, my friend. What is your view on contrarianism? I would like to get your thoughts on this.
Contrarianism has its place, because the more crowded a trade becomes, the less likely the outcome. It's like the $100 oil. It still might go 160, 200, to 20, whatever, but not now, because the space is too crowded. And I don't know the exact science behind it. All I can just tell you what I've observed is that when the shouting becomes very loud, and it's sort of, okay, it's time to either close or not. I'm not necessarily a fan of taking the opposite position, but just of taking profit. That's sort of, for me, it's like, because there might be a probability, a very strong probability that it does continue, right? So buy the dip, it keeps dipping. Buy the dip, it keeps dipping. Buy the dip, it keeps dipping. Sort of that cascading effect. And I'd rather just close into profit and not take the opposite, the contrarian view, and saying, like you said, you wrote out the long and you closed and said, okay, I'm not sure if this is going to continue, but I'm fine here. And that's when the shouting gets so loud. I'm a kind of, okay, I'm fine here type of person. I'm fine here. If it continues, it takes a bit of emotional sort of, you need to tell yourself, this is fine. This is no FOMO. I didn't lose out on anything, because it's very easy. It could have just as well not be. There is no surety. But the louder things get, definitely there is a correlation for me that the opposite happens. I'm not going to say I'm a contrarian. I care a lot about being a contrarian or listen to them or whatever, but there is something to say for being on, a lot of people being on the same side the whole time. But then again, the same side, sometimes they win.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like, I can't see if you are a contrarian 100% of the time.
No, that's stupid. You'd be wiped out quickly.
But you see my point. It's that I don't think, and that's where my problem comes with people being,
some of the time, not all the time.
Yeah, but yeah, so being people saying that you need to be forced to choose between being a bull and a bear, and saying, but
I'm a kangaroo, for goodness sake.
But
I jump.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, okay, because if you're contrarian, you can only be a contrarian. People, they judge you in that way, or you get judged if you do something in the opposite. So I am a contrarian now, and this is what I do. Or I'm a gold bug now, and I buy gold, and I stack gold, and which was still, I think it's going to go sometime, but it's been one of the worst performing asset classes during the this inflationary environment, just FYI. But it's sort of, this is who I have a problem with that. This is who I am.
Oh my goodness. Narrative. So agree with you on that. 100% agree. Or my favorite one, the reason why I won't change is because this is just the way I am. That is the single biggest inhibiting statement to your growth and development.
Yes.
Literally that.
Yes, exactly. 100%.
You know, it's, as I said to you before we even started recording, I think there are so many misconceptions about trading and what, I'm not saying I'm Mr. Big Shot. I'm far from Mr. Big Shot. And no, I hold no delusions of grandeur, like zero delusions of grandeur. I'm just a regular guy trying to do the best with what I have, best that I can with what I have. It's literally as simple as that. No illusions of grandeur here. But my goodness, if there is a field that has tested me, retested me, literally flipped me upside down, kicked me in the nuts and in the teeth and all that, and taught me to come back, learn more, be stronger, be more gritty and stuff, it's trading. It is not as easy as what it seems. I would actually argue that you need to have more of a pro athlete mentality to survive as a trader than what you do as a studious academic. You need to have elements of being a studious academic because you need to study the markets, but you need to have that grit and fitness of an athlete to be able to keep going.
Yeah, I would equate that to sprints, like that explosiveness that you're using for the first 40 minutes, 20, 40 meters. And if you're an investor, you're more of a long distance athlete. Believe me, there is pain in seeing your portfolio going through something that is going through now, or that we went through. So it's this other side, flip side of the coin. It's like, it's more of a prolonged health or mindset that you need to have as well. So you have but there's no reason why you can't do both.
No, of course not. I would say split your book, for example.
Yes.
Have a trading book and have an investment book.
Exactly.
But the other thing.
So
go ahead, Rocco. Sorry, go ahead.
No. But there's an interesting, like, people trying to force you, like, you're labeled, right? You're labeled in a box. Oh, you are a trader, and I'm like, no, fuck yourself. Yeah, well, go label yourself. Don't label me as anything. You don't know me. Like who says I can use technicals to inform my short to medium term hedges on my portfolio? Why? Who says I can't?
If you tell me that you read tea leaves and still make money, I would say read bloody tea leaves for all I care. Sincerely.
Yeah,
I
if I don't care if it's moon cycles or whatever it is. If it's working for you, then do it. Just do it. If it's not working, then obviously you've got a problem. But I mean, it's like everyone wants to comment on everyone else and what everyone is doing, and
focus on your damn self.
And that's why I had this point last week. I said that a lot of the creator economy has just turned into people commenting on other creators or on other people and for clicks and likes. And I mean, I do not care what here and there I'll joke about Mr. Kramer and the inverse Kramer and stuff like that. But I don't care. It's like, but it seems that there's this vitriol and everyone's trying to score cheap points, and it's like it should be us, right, versus the market, or you versus yourself versus the market. It's actually a better analogy.
We both have exactly. We both have podcasts, but I don't view you as a threat. You're a friend.
No, but now someone will create a 5-minute video breaking down what that podcast is doing wrong, or what this person is like XYZ. And I'm like, yeah, is this where we are at the moment? We've shifted from education into pure valuetainment. And there's a lot of those big FinTwit accounts that go after each other. And I'm like, yeah, guys, you're missing the point here completely. We're getting caught up in the entertainment aspect of it and losing focus on what is really going on.
Yeah, but that's also the other key point is that it's the illusion of size and value, you know, or size and perceived value, you know, like if this person has got a big following or a big account, they must know what they're doing. I'm going to gain a lot of value from that. Well,
we have come full circle. We have come full circle in our conversation.
Yeah, literally.
We started with big followers and we're back to big followers.
But you can often gain a lot of value from smaller accounts. I've seen smaller accounts where I've read some stuff and I go, wow, geez, this is really useful stuff. Why am I not seeing more of this in more mainstream accounts? And I've read a lot of absolute drivel on larger accounts where I would just go, oh my goodness, you know, you don't have a clue what you are doing, but you give the perception that you do.
It's nearly impossible I would say, for someone starting from scratch to grow on social media these days if you're not, organically, without being paid or something like having a PR machine or a marketing machine. And I'm talking about like 100,000, 150,000 followers, stuff like that. That's my perception from being in this space. Just because people see your follower account and they go, who's this guy? You know what I mean? It's like, and it's it's really tough. Like, but followers are the metric to which you are judged.
It's a currency.
It's a currency of social media, and it is which means that you get judged. And I just think that we can do better, because the more followers you have, the more you have to put out this soft fluff content, because that is what feeds the algorithm and that is what gets the engagement. And if you're putting out entertainment with a couple of hundred followers, if you're putting out education with a couple of hundred followers, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, but you see now, Rocco, you're delving into a very interesting area over here known as bread and circuses. You know the whole concept of bread and circuses?
No, that's new to me.
So bread and circuses was a campaign that was issued during the Roman era, where they were debasing the currency and they were losing a lot of support from the base. So you know, from the base, due to the fact that they were waging wars all over.
Yeah.
So what they instilled was a campaign known as Bread and Circuses, where they would give people free access to the Colosseum, the gladiatorial games and stuff, and give them bread and wine and stuff. So that's where the whole bread and circuses come from.
Okay, makes sense.
Keep the masses entertained, and then they won't bitch about about the stuff that we get up to. So it's the same kind of thing that we see on social media. It's the same kind of thing we see in politics, in business, or wherever. Keep people entertained, and they won't complain about what's going on. It's give them hope and give them entertainment. It's so easy to lure them in that way.
It's a very dystopian sort of viewpoint, but it's been around for a very long time. Yeah. So it's not new. It's just instead of a Colosseum, we've got
stadium.
But I mean, this could be as well, right? Yeah. Your cell phone could be a metaphor as well, and the apps on your phone could be,
And by the way, I don't view it as I can see why you would say it's dystopian.
Yes.
But I would like to qualify what I meant by that.
Yeah.
It's not dystopian. Okay. It's just a case of the fact that it's very easy to tap into people's weaknesses, and it's very easy to exploit those weaknesses. So to me, it's not a case of making it dystopian and, we're all screwed and stuff. Far from it. I'm saying it's better to be aware of the fact that these things can actually happen, and that it's so easy to be exploited by these.
Yeah.
Because we all have biases, as we both alluded to earlier. We're all susceptible to it, and we're all dopamine junkies. All of us are dopamine junkies.
Humanity is easily entertained.
Usually.
Very easy.
That phone that you held in your hand earlier, I'm addicted to we're all addicted to our phones. I can't think of a single person who has a phone who is not addicted to their phone. Maybe there are exceptions that I'm not aware of, but I don't know anyone who isn't. And it's so easy to get addicted to it. It's so easy to get addicted to Twitter, to trading. Hell, trading is my life.
I was about to say that it's very addicting to get, easy to get addicted to the stock market.
Yeah, it's super easy to get addicted to it, especially if you have the mindset of wanting to learn more and do more and be more and all that stuff. It's because it's a game you can never win.
It's a complete opposite. And it's actually, the truth is, the less you do, the more you do.
Yeah, totally. Because it's a game you can never win.
No.
You can never beat the market, not really.
No, you can float the market, if I can put it like that, but you can't, like the house almost always wins.
Yeah, totally. You know what, I just checked the time. My goodness, that's the thing with you and I, is that when we start riffing and stuff, it just continues, because you have so many awesome ideas and viewpoints on things that come out. It's really awesome.
We went through the Romans, we went through New, we went through Old. I think we covered a lot of interesting stuff. I really enjoyed talking to you as well, mate.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Thanks a lot for coming on, my friend. And I look forward to posting this. You'll by the way be my first guest since I've done the revamp of the intro and the outro and all that. So yeah, this is another first.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, perfect. So I don't know what today is going to bring with this whole Pelosi thing. Let's see what that's going to bring about. Hopefully just another bit of rhetoric, toys thrown out the cot, and that's the end of it. Nothing more. Who wants
nothing
war?
More,
I don't.
Well, no. What is it good for? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's see what happens. My friend, I think let's end it off over there before we get on to another topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But have yourself a great day, and thanks a lot for coming on again.
Thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. Next time, in a year's time, we'll have video as well.
Well, hopefully in less than a year from now.
I'm joking.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Black Heart Red Spade podcast. For more information, please visit our website at www.blackheartredspade.com or follow us on Twitter at BHeartRSpade.